my father died, I spent a lot of time thinking I wasn't such a great son. Like maybe I could have listened a little more, or spent some more time with them together. I felt so guilty, like he did everything for me, and I didn't do anything for him. And then one day I realized I did the greatest thing for him before he died. I was there with him, and I held his hand and said goodbye.
My name is Jacob Burrows, and I'm Miyagi-Do. I settle disputes with my mind, not with my fists, and also with my kicks, and sometimes also with my fists.
And my name is Jim Scampoli. I represent Cobra Kai because I'll get obnoxiously drunk and I'll ruin the party, but I'll leave a sweet, heartfelt voicemails for you afterwards.
Welcome to No Mercy, a Cobra Kai Kickback, where we talk about all things Cobra Kai and Karate Kid, and this time, in the second episode, we've gotten all the way to part 2 of Karate Kid, which I suppose is how you would say it. It's Karate Kid part 2. I'd never seen it before, and man, was I in for a ride, Jim.
Yes, that's what I was trying to, like, I'd messaged you while I was watching this because, like I'd mentioned, I'd seen it before, but I was young. I hadn't seen it in decades. And I was like, this movie is quite a trip, Karate Kid 2. You're in for a ride, that's for sure.
Yeah. Talking about some of the information on it, it's directed by the same director, John G. Avildsen, who did the first one, and written by Robert Mark Kamen, who did the first one as well. There's actually a fair bit of good writing in here, fair bit of good directing, but also there are bits that are fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And the first one is so well balanced with realism and enhanced sections, and like obviously it's about a big karate fight that is made really dramatic and so on. In this one, they go to Japan, right?
Yeah, Okinawa.
Yeah, Okinawa, and they're finna get killed like every other second. They're constantly in mortal peril. I think it might be a spoiler, I don't really know, but I think in the third one they go back to like, oh, now it's about a tournament again, right?
Yes, yeah, because a lot of people talk about that, of how they went from a tournament to a death match, and then, yeah, the third one is back to a tournament.
But maybe they should have stuck with the tournaments, because there's a lot of moments in this that really work, especially Daniel-san and, of course, Mr. Miyagi. Like, their interactions, the script, and the acting is good all the way through, I think. And some new additions that are really good as well. And then there's some that aren't very good. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag overall, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say this kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about the first movie. This is more in line if you didn't know anything about this property and someone was like, oh, this movie from the 80s is called The Karate Kid. It's about, an old Japanese guy that trains a young kid to do karate. You'd kind of think more in this tone than the first one, I'd say. Because, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. There's a lot of stuff that's really well done and done right, but it doesn't reach the same heights as the first movie, and some things just become so silly. Where I guess the first one you could still argue is silly, but it's got that core, it's got that base and the heart that keeps it there. And this still has the heart, and the actors are still great, like the main cast, anyways. But yeah, it gets off the rails quite a bit.
Yeah. And I mean, it's specifically a lot of the problems stem from Sato, the bad guy, who isn't really a bad guy. For me, anyway, his voice is just ridiculous. And every time he's on screen, I don't even want to do it. I feel like it would probably be a racist caricature if I did it. But like his voice, I kept saying to my girlfriend who I watched this with that like all of the scenes with Sato in them are terrible. and they would actually probably work if you dubbed him in with Japanese and subtitled it. Not because it's unbelievable that they're all speaking English. I'm okay with that. I can live with that. Even when it's two Japanese people speaking to each other, there's no English speakers around. They're just like, yes, we were speaking broken English. Whatever. All the German war movies or war movies in Germany, they're all speaking English as well. So fuck it. Except Der Untergang. But like Sato's voice is just so cartoonish. Like, oh, you paid by like it is so bad, Jim. It's so bad.
It is. And also, like, not to jump ahead. Well, I mean, I guess I'm going to jump ahead, but the payoff to his character stinks. Like, he's the most cartoonish, crazy villain. And then at the end, he's not. And then they turn his nephew into the crazy villain, which I guess ties in with obviously a big thing with the Karate Kid is that the teacher is what's more important. And you can argue that Chosen becomes the way he is because of the way Sato taught him. And like, that's the poison that he did to the youth, and how like, that's the whole thing with like Miyagi and Daniel and stuff. But still, it's just the way that at the end, he's like, now you bring me great honor. And all of a sudden he's like, here is deed to village and let's rebuild and all this stuff, when he was going to bulldoze everything like hours beforehand. There's just not a great way that works. The transition doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and I guess now that you mention it, the whole, like, a big part of the first film is there's no such thing as a bad student, only a bad teacher. And that is proved at the end where, Kreese tells Johnny to fuck him up, but then Johnny afterwards is like, you're all right, kid.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we get to see all that at the beginning of this one, by the way. What a way to just recap the whole, like, have a bunch of clips from the first film in here to make you go like, yes, I feel emotions about this again. It worked for me anyway.
Well, and also in my brain, the way I remember it, the beginning of this movie is how the first one ends. Like, that's how I always remembered that. There's the thing where they fight outside in the parking lot and then he honks his nose. Like, seeing it as a kid, I just remembered, oh yeah, that's how the first one ends. So when I rewatched it a couple years ago and it just ends, I was like, wait a minute, what about all the other stuff?
Yeah, and I was always a little bit confused about that scene because it's so immediately afterwards, and it's in Cobra Kai, the scene where like Kreese is choking Johnny, which is so fucked up, and it's so great that that's happening as a sort of parallel with him and Miyagi. But I also, because I hadn't watched The Karate Kid in years, I was also like, wait, did I forget about this? But I think that was because I didn't know there was a Karate Kid Part 2. But yeah, so it totally reverses the thing of like, there's no such thing as a bad student by literally going like, nah, the teacher was good deep down all along. The student was evil though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But back to the beginning. I do love the way it picks up. And I think that was a more common thing back in the days with sequels, is because they'd always want to at least use scenes from the end of the previous movie to open sequels. Although I guess I'm thinking more like Rocky and stuff like that. So I guess that is in line. Because they replace the montage of the car driving from New Jersey to LA over the opening credits with just the montage of the first movie, which is fun. And then we pick right up with the Cobras, and well, first we have Daniel in the shower, which is a little problematic, I'd say. But Miyagi's just hanging out, waiting for him, and they're talking about, hey, what about my tournament career? And I think Miyagi's just like, early retirement. Like, no, we're not doing this anymore, except for the death fight that we're gonna have on,
which I will encourage and stand by and do nothing. Yeah, and he's walking out with his big trophy, and everyone's like bigging him up. And I guess this is where we get to see the start of who Daniel's son is gonna be. Like, he must be feeling like, damn, I could really sell a car to these guys. When the old guys come up and the kids want his autograph, he's like, damn, I could really sell some cars here. Because he's definitely like enjoying the attention and everything. He's always had that personality. And Miyagi just keeps going like, we gotta go. Come on. Like, don't keep the ladies waiting.
I love that it's the announcer guy, like it's the same guy. I mean, not that it's crazy that they got the same guy back, but I just love that, the little details. And even they're kind of poo-pooing Cobra Kai
Yeah.
because they say, like, they have some comments, something about like, oh, they don't know true karate or whatever. And then just great moment where Miyagi uses defense by just getting out of the way, and then Kreese punches his fists out, and nice little setup, foreshadowing for the end when Miyagi's gonna kill Kreese, but then he decides not to and honks his nose.
Yeah.
But then they have to kind of, I don't want to say retcon things, but they go against a little bit, at least the vision of Allie in the Cobra Kai series. Because in Karate Kid Part 2, we have to get rid of Allie quickly. Not only did she ruin the car, which I hate her for right now, she ruined the car. She also just ran off with some college guy or whatever, left Daniel at the dance. Because Daniel comes in, he's in like his, I don't know if he's in like a prom suit or some sort of formal.
Yeah, senior prom.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, Jesus, Daniel's son, quite a growth spurt because now he's like super tall.
Oh, yeah, he's buff. He's wide now. He's a wide boy.
And, we get some fun stuff where it's just more Daniel's son and Miyagi hanging out. And obviously, going back to the 80s, you think of like Marty and Doc. Oh, yeah. And now you got Daniel's son and Miyagi. For whatever reason, you just want these young kids to hang out with these old guys. Like,
yeah, I don't know. That was always like, whenever I watched Back to the Future, everyone was like, your weird friendship with that old guy. And I was like, leave him alone. They're good buddies. He's just this weird inventor friend. And same thing here. He's just this karate instructor. They have a really, really close bond. Yeah. I'm just way on board with these relationships. And the mentor-mentee relationship, maybe it's something we don't see enough of, because I feel like every mentor just dies immediately in any media that's produced nowadays, because you gotta. And granted, I did rewatch Star Wars, and you do notice, like, when you watch the first one, you're like, man, Obi-Wan and Luke knew each other for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And in this, they have a relationship that builds and grows, and it's actually like a huge part of the heart of the series of films. So like, maybe bring some of that stuff back. It's great.
Yeah. And I mean, he teaches them. He doesn't really teach them. He just somehow is able to nail the nails in with one hit, which is, it's impressive. But
have you ever really tried, Jim, though? I mean, maybe it's super easy. I wouldn't know.
I haven't really tried, although I realized that anytime I've hammered in a nail, I've always thought of this, but I guess I didn't even make the connection as Karate Kid Part 2. But I've always remembered, like, wasn't there a thing where a guy could just hit a nail in one shot? I think I just thought it was real life. I'm sure someone could do it. But he's always teaching him, even though they don't have some big tournament. He's still teaching him. And it's a nice, like, reveal that he's setting up like a off-suite apartment for Daniel to live in while his mother goes to Fresno or whatever's going to happen here.
Yeah, that's nice.
Which is nice.
And he just talks about how his life's out of focus, and Miyagi talks about when your life feels out of focus, always return to basic of life, so breathing. And he talks about breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as we know, I'm Miyagi-Do, and so I meditate almost every day, and that's the basic ass shit. That's the first thing you'll learn. In through the nose, out through the mouth. That's it. That's how you get there. That's how you refocus yourself, damn it. And it's right there in a kid's film. Well done.
Yes, yeah. And then Daniel's putting together the medals for him. He, made him a nice, thoughtful gift, put him in a nice frame. Then we get news that Mr. Miyagi's father's sick. And it is a surprise to everyone. Like, what, your father's alive? All right.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sure it's been pointed out, but I mean, Daniel in Cobra Kai is older than Mr. Miyagi here, I believe.
Whoa. Yeah, man.
Or at least older than Pat Morita. I think they actually... Yeah. I think Miyagi's older technically than actually what Pat Morita's age is during this, but either way.
Yeah, that is insane. I just have to point out the mailman is a real aggressive kind of character. He's really cartoonish, because first I was even like, how the fuck did you get back there? Because they're in the backyard, but I see him walk away, so I was like, okay, I get it. But still, he's like, man, you should sell tickets and have people come in here. Do you mind if I come around sometime? It's like, You gave him the letter. Now go away. Your job here is done.
Yeah, do you mind if I bring my wife? Like, my wife would love to see this. It's like he's setting up a home invasion or something.
Yeah.
At least that's in nowadays, that's what I would think. But maybe he's just a sweet man that was lonely and he wanted a friend. And Daniel and Miyagi just ignore him.
Well, he's going to go off and have his own movie, but for now we stay on this track. And he has a letter that his father's sick and goes to a passport office and they have a chat there and they learn all the important backstory about he was going to marry someone, but so he made a big speech about how he was gonna and was challenged to a fight and then ran off. And why he didn't bring Yuki with me, I will never know, but I guess he was just too honorable.
Yeah, I don't love this thing either because it shouldn't, but it kind of undercuts Miyagi and his wife and his unborn child, like his dead wife and child.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess everyone, of course, he's going to have a history beforehand, but they try to build this, what if marriage that from Okinawa up, and it's, I don't know. I'm like, but Miyagi had another love, so I don't know. I guess you always have your first. Very much like Daniel LaRusso and Ali with an I in Cobra Kai. It's not so much that unless they throw me for a loop later, which they could. It's not so much I feel like that he wants to leave his wife, but Ali with an I will always have a piece of his heart, even though she ruined his car and ran off with a college dude.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, speaking of that, I watched this with my girlfriend, and she was like, Daniel-san better not go marry some white bitch after this.
Well, yeah, I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, well, it's all she doesn't know, so I'm keeping mum about it for now, about everything that happens. But it's a great piece of romance, I think. I mean, even though a lot of it is based on like, oh, get on road, but you are already in middle of road, Daniel-san. A lot of it's based on that, but there's just good chemistry on camera, and you can't really fight with that, can you?
Yeah, I'll forgive it because I was thinking the same thing, but it also, again, to do another Back to the Future comparison, it reminded me of, this is pretty heavy, Doc. Like, oh, what do you mean heavy? Is there something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull in the future? Just, people don't get cool slang like us 80s kids.
That's very true. Yeah, it is very much the same thing. And I was also thinking this came out in 86 and the previous one was 84, I think.
Yes.
And of course, Back to the Future famously in 85, right? Or it takes place in 85, yeah. So, I mean, not to be like an 80s nerd, like retro boy, but like, damn, what great years for cinema.
Yeah, right? And I think 84 as well, I think was Gremlins was also 84 and Ghostbusters.
Damn, like we're very much like, obviously it's very played out to even complain about all the remakes and sequels and whatnot, but like all this shit is new, man. They made Karate Kid and then Back to the Future, back to front 2 years in a row. Fuck, I haven't had a good new thing in forever.
Yeah, Jesus. And yeah, they're just pumping them out year after year.
Yeah.
But hey, we get to see it all again now. So
we do. It's kind of sweet. Miyagi is kind of disappointed that Daniel-san doesn't show up to say bye before he goes to the airport. And then Daniel-san runs up there through the gate. And it's a very sweet moment, though. It is kind of weird that the hostess is like, you're going to have to go back to the gate, young man. It's like, but I'm holding a ticket, though.
That's exactly what I was saying.
I feel like it's not up to you. But I guess maybe you need someone over the age of 18. I don't know. But yeah, I was still like, wait, what? Why are you siding with this other passenger? They're just two passengers.
Because even outside of just the pre 9/11, like the fact that someone could just be walking up to the gate that you could tell them to go away, that's not even close to happening. But yeah, I was also thinking the same thing. Like, wasn't he just holding a ticket? Why is she telling me he has to go? And it's such a weird. It's like, I get they kind of have to jump through hoops because Miyagi is never the type of guy to be like, Daniel-san, come with me to Okinawa, because they have to kind of put him right on the spot. Like, because even if, say, it was at Mr. Miyagi's house where Daniel brought this up, I guess there'd be more of a way for him to decline it. So they have to kind of jump through these hoops where it's like right at the plane and he has to kind of convince him that it'll work. And then, he kind of gives in like, all right, fine. Come on, kid, let's go.
Yeah, and it is my stereotype anyway. My stereotypical mind thinks that's a very Japanese thing where someone pays you a compliment or tries to give you something or whatever. You always have to say no like 8 times, and then it's only if someone keeps pushing that you accept like a compliment or whatever. And in the same way, Daniel-san gets him to come go along with it when he's like, you're always there for me. I want to be there for you. Like, you've helped me out with like a million things. Like, let me do this one thing. And he really appreciates it. And it's a great moment. And then, this is one of those moments where I'm like, this is a great moment. And then there's a lot of other shit in the film as well.
Yeah. And I really like the detail of they don't lean into it too much, but I mean, it's just all there in the sight when he pulls up to his village and there's this fucking helicopters and they keep talking about this US military base and how it's basically is pushing the village away. And even the fucking guy doesn't even know, like, hey, where is blah, blah, blah? They're like, yeah, you're here. Like, that's where we are. You pieces of shit. And because I was being critical at one point when Daniel's in the city, at the city area, and he looks into the karate school and there's all these white guys. I was like, what are all these white guys doing in the karate school? And I'm like, oh yeah, because the fucking military base. That's why they're all in the bar, all in the arcade. They're all in the karate school because they've like taken over.
Yep. So let's talk about this. They arrive. They get a weird drive from a guy who knew they was there, even though they had no way of knowing, but they made their business to know. Then they drive into like an empty warehouse that says Sato on the side. And the film kind of goes downhill from here. Not entirely, but like the reveal of this bad guy and the way he comes in. So, coward, you have returned. Oh, like it is. It's really bad.
I mean, I completely agree with you. But is it? They're just trying to make a Japanese crease, right?
Yeah, not crease, if you will.
Yeah, but it still doesn't defend it because I can't. Like, I agree. I feel like maybe if it came to a better payoff or climax, maybe I would buy it. But yeah, it's too much, and it feels, especially coming off of the first movie, it just feels too different, too weird. But I guess it's you got to give the movie credit in the other respect that most sequels, especially, I mean, I guess it's never changed, but I guess you could say, especially in the 80s, usually you just make the same movie and you just call it part 2. They are trying to do something a little bit different here, and they're trying to kind of flip the focus because surprisingly, there's like not that much Daniel in this movie in a weird way. I mean, we get more into it when he starts having his blossoming relationship throughout the film, but they do really try to keep the focus on Miyagi. It stinks that they didn't have a better villain for him to deal with.
Yeah, and I think the character of Sato even makes sense. Like, on paper, I could see this making sense, and I don't want to pin it on the director or the actor or whatever, but it's just the presentation of it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it in these scenes when he's, like, big and angry, but I think what really hurts the film is that I don't believe it in the smaller scenes where I could believe in this character as, like, he's the bad guy, but he's, like, he cares so much about honor, but there's so much going on behind the eyes that you don't see. Like, if you had some scenes with him, like when he's praying at the shrine or whatever, or when he's like sees his mentor die, like if you could have like close up on him, on his eyes, not with these fucking sunglasses, but like actually like see his emotion, see a lot of stuff happening under the surface, and then have him deliver this, that it's just, if we had a fucking, I don't know, a Japanese Gandolfini actually nailing this part, it could have worked really well, but it just feels like a very cartoonish character that we end up with.
Well, plus he's like super villainous, but he feels like he's the type of villain that he would just come up and shoot Miyagi in the head or something. Yeah. I mean, I guess there's this thing of honor, but like, is there really honor in coming through and tearing up people's farms and like plants and stuff like that? Like, or ripping up I mean, I guess technically he's sending other people to do it, and it's for this fight, but it's just, I don't know. He's supposed to be villain. He's supposed to be very villainous, but he's not villainous enough to just be like, all right, we're just fighting right now. Here we go. We're fighting. Let's do this.
Well, he does try to do that, I guess. Like he's like, "Oh, then we'll fight right now," and
Oh,
then
right. Yeah.
then the mentor dies, and he gets 3 days or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I've said my piece on the villain. I'll leave it at that because there's like it's the worst part of the film for me.
Keep harping
Uh, yeah.
Gotta give it up. I love Daniel and his Okinawa book, though. He's very
Oh
protective of it, and he loves reading it, and he's learning a lot. So good for him.
Yeah, not bad. He pulls out some facts and all as they're walking along there. Flirts with the niece or whatever. I don't remember how she's related. But a lot of flirting going on real quick. So.
Well, actually, one quick thing on Sato. So, do you prefer the Sato from Westworld or the Sato from Karate Kid Part 2?
Is his name is Sato there too, huh?
I think so. Is it?
Yeah, I think so as well. But I thought I had it mixed up. But yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's the Yakuza guy in Singapore.
Yeah. So,
so
I guess if you have not. Now, this is from our Westworld Theories podcast, and my point was more like, I guess if you have to have a cartoonish Yakuza guy, you name him Sato.
Yeah.
That's just them's the rules. I don't make the rules. I just abide by them.
So yeah. Oh, then we have one of the notes I have anyways is the drum. I had that drum.
Oh.
Because one of the main things I remember from this movie. Because I think there is a moment. I mean, when we rewatch Cobra Kai, I'm pretty sure Daniel picks it up out of one of the boxes or something like that at one point. And I realized watching this movie as well that most of what I remember from this movie is from the Karate Kid Nintendo video game.
Okay, so when are we doing the episode on that?
Because I even thought this movie was called Daniel-san in Okinawa, but that's just the name of level 2 of the video game. And I always thought the name of the movie was Karate Kid Part 2, Daniel-san in Okinawa. But that's level 2 of the video game because you have the scene. Well, first you do chopsticks fly catch. So you move Daniel around. You have to catch the flies with chopsticks.
Of course.
Then there's another point where you have to dodge you're on the dock when you have to dodge the sphere thing that's like swinging back and forth, like the pendulum or whatever.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's classic video game. I'm pretty sure that's why they put the scene in the movie. And then, of course, you have to break the ice, much like Daniel does. And you have to hit the power up on like just the right time. And at one point, you deal with a monsoon as well. You're just like jumping over trees and stuff that are blowing in the air. So, great game. Daniel, Karate Kid, Nintendo. Pick it up.
Yeah, about the drum, like this is also a bit that felt like it was a bit unfocused because he's given this drum, right? And he's playing with it. He's trying to figure out what kind of moves can I make that are similar to this drum. And I knew at the end when they're doing the big dance thing that I was like, wait, there's got to be something more because he literally never used the drum thing. He never did the thing where he dodges a thing that's flying at him and all that. He never did that. Yeah. So obviously he does that in the final fight. But they don't even show what he's doing because it's just close-ups and he's turning, and I guess he's turning like the drum. I have no way of knowing because I didn't see it. So I don't know what he learns from that. And more importantly, this dance when him and the girl are dancing on the bridge, that felt like a much more significant moment where he was like, oh, he could have been like, oh, this is kind of like karate. And then he could do more of a dancey Tai Chi type karate like Mr. Miyagi at the start when he just dodges every punch and he could defeat the bad guy at the end that way. But no, I guess it was all about the drum, huh? And then they all had drums, Jim. Every one of them had drums at the end. What the fuck?
And it doesn't come off well because, yeah, you're right. The way it's zoomed in, it looks like he's just flinging his body, which happens to fling his arms around. And it just so happens when he flings his arms, it's like a punch. And it's like, but it would have worked out much better if he was using that to dodge, and much like Miyagi was with Kreese. But instead, you just don't move your arms. You just move your upper body so fast that your arms fling up and start punching people in the face. So yeah, not quite as good of a payoff as like a wax on, wax off. I do love that he tries to use the crane kick and he gets his ass kicked for it.
That is nice. But yeah, it must be. Is her name Yuki or is that the older one? Yeah, Yuki is the love interest, right?
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so Yuki and him on the bridge, they do the dance. Later, they do the dance that's more American style, and apparently he's great at that as well. It's just those moments ring more true to me than the moments like, oh, my father made me dodge things here as well, and then he does it once. The dancing thing kind of repeats, and it would just make more sense for the dance to be kind of what he takes away from it and learns, and instead it's just the drum. So the drum feels more video gamey, like you said. So
Actually,
yeah,
it's Kumiko.
Kumiko. Okay,
Just
so
to correct,
Yuki's
'cause
the
I'm
older
sure
one.
I know we got the super fans out there, so I don't want
Yeah,
Yuki
yeah,
is Miyagi's chick.
yeah. Okay.
Because Miyagi's
Well,
got a chick now, Daniel's got a chick. But yeah, I was confused as well, but I looked it up because the main reason I wanted to bring it up because we're recording this now. I mean, depending on whenever you're listening to this, we're recording this now. Cobra Kai season 3 has not come out yet. There's not even a trailer yet. There have been hints though, and they've tweeted pictures of like going to Okinawa. So the obvious prediction is that maybe we'll see some of these characters again, or maybe this movie is going to play a bigger part in some of the stuff we get into in Cobra Kai season 3.
yeah.
And I do know that the actress that plays Kumiko she's still very active, although maybe she's too active that she ain't got time for Cobra Kai. She was on Star Trek Picard.
Damn. Yeah, I guess. And she's in I Will Make You Mine, coming out soon. She's in a lot of movies and a lot of TV as well. And Man in the High Castle, Good Doctor, lots of shit I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's great in this. And like I said, I really like their chemistry. I like the chemistry as well. Like you said, there's a lot of focus on Mr. Miyagi and his relationship. It all kind of works except for when they have conflict introduced,
Yeah.
basically. And I do as well love, even though I don't know if they actually filmed it in Okinawa, or do you have any insight on that? But
I don't think they did, but I
oh,
didn't double check. I thought I
yeah.
read that maybe they filmed it in the Philippines or something like that, but I'm not sure.
Principal photography in Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
And local countryside in modern day Okinawa had been drastically changed due to the military bases, so other locations in both Japan and Hawaii were scouted as alternative locations. Yeah, I guess it's in Hawaii mainly. 50 Okinawa born Hawaii residents were also recruited as film extras, so basically a lot of Japanese people living in Hawaii, so they'd done it that way. And I guess they must have built a bunch of, like, when they walk through town and stuff, it feels Japanese, but hey, that's what production design does. You just slap some kanji on there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and did they actually even go the extra route, not just Japanese, but actually like Okinawan born?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you do now. That's something you wouldn't expect they'd ever do then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is kind of those things kind of shine through a bit in some of these movies, even though you have a character like Sato or something like that. But you could tell that they go for at least some sort of authenticity, or they try to show respect, which is nice. And you got to give it up for the like the scrolls or whatever that Miyagi has, and it's what are the rules? Because it's like Fight Club ripped off Karate Kid, right?
Yeah.
The second rule is see rule 1.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Because it's so known from Fight Club, and I'm like, first learn rule number 1. That's like exactly the same thing.
Yeah, karate for defense only. Rule number 2. First learn rule number 1. So yeah, do not talk about karate. Second rule, do not talk about karate to anyone.
Very good. And yeah, as I was saying, like, I do like all of the depictions. Like, it feels genuine in that they're showing the change with all the helicopters and everything, which is accurate, that it is like a huge military American presence at this time. And it's also interesting when you think about the fact that obviously Miyagi fought on the side of the US in Germany, as we know from the first film, and like that was kind of not the side that Japan was on at the time. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about as well. They don't really get into that, but they don't really need to. And now they have the nephew of Sato training sort of military police as well. And of course, the famous ice chopping challenge that I love every Miyagi moment where you expect him to do one thing and he's like, "Oh, I bet 600." No, you'll be fine.
Yes. He's such a great character, and just the sense of humor of Mr. Miyagi is so great, and I love that it's still perfect in here. I mean, because I mean Pat Morita's great and he's just a well-written character. I do want to call out, there's a small thing, but when they are in the city, the boy on the street that's like comes up to them is played by BD Wong. BD Wong, as you may know from the show Mr. Robot, or of course he's in Jurassic Park. I was just excited that I was like, hey, that's BD Wong, because I recognized him off of one line.
That's cool. Yeah, doesn't that character like do nothing in this? He's just
no, he does nothing. He comes up and he's like, "Hey, come here" or something, or
come
he's
to
like,
the dance tonight. Bring your friend.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's all he does.
What a great.
I did want to bring up that Daniel. I mean, to give more credence to credence to the Daniel is a villain. He tries to murder Chosen at one point before things become the death match. Because when they're trashing Miyagi's home, and remember, he's like, "Do you ever train with a spear?" And Daniel's like, "No." And then he gives it to him, and then Daniel looks at it, and then he tries to run at him and stab him with it.
Oh yeah, that part's weird. Because he holds it like a bat at first, and then he's like, "Ah!" Literally tries to go at him. Like he doesn't realize what's gonna happen. Why doesn't he use the weapons he's actually capable of using? His hands.
Yes. But like, yeah, maybe if he tried to hit him with it, but he did try to stab him in the chest with a spear. And the inner Mr. Miyagi in me was very disappointed that Daniel would do that. I understand he's upset and he's just trying to do what's right, but it would definitely not. If he just saved the bonsai trees, but he killed this person, I don't think that Miyagi would think that was great.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we have some other bits that are good about the tea ceremony. Both of them doing cross-generational tea ceremony. But then of course it all gets hyped up to where Mr. Miyagi agrees to the duel because it's going to save the village, and no matter what, the deed for the village will go, to the family, to the village itself and all that. So yeah, so as he says, I like his approach when he's like, no matter who wins, I've already won, because what I care about is the village. I don't care about honor. It's very Mr. Miyagi. But then there's a storm that saves everything.
Yeah, and I was almost, I mean, I knew that there had to be a death match, but I was almost thinking, like, what if they really just had the storm happen and then everyone found a common ground and then it just ended that way? I mean, I guess audiences at the time, well, audiences probably now too, would be pretty upset. But I would have been like, wow, what a great, awesome move that they did, where they hyped up that there's going to be this death match, but then a big storm comes and we have a common enemy and we find our differences ain't so different after all, and we all want a common good, and then everyone becomes friends.
I almost thought that was it, because it's literally like, it's like she's doing the cool dance thing, and it's like, it's less than 10 minutes left of the film.
Yeah.
And then I noticed him on the weird line there, like his zip line.
Yeah.
I noticed him about up there in the shot before you're supposed to notice him or whatever. So it's just very strange.
And even when he punches her in the face,
yeah,
like that just feels weird too. It's like, oh, why is this stuff in the movie? This is based off nothing, but it almost feels like they did want to, like the actual writer would want to end it here, and then the studio's like, no, what are you doing? Where is the fight? Where's the crane kick? And then they just like plastered this other thing on at the very end.
But yeah, at the same time, as I was saying, they were building towards this drum technique and everything. Maybe if they did a better payoff on that in the fight, I would have been more, and everyone didn't just suddenly have it and they were like, yes, the drum technique. Like, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. But like, he crosses the bridge, right? And then he tells him to dump the bridge. So Daniel-san dumps the bridge and they want to fight to the death, but he puts his knife away. So they're fighting to death with kicks and whatever, which, I feel like she could have just jumped in. I believe there's water around there, like a moat. If they just went in there, like Daniel-san could have jumped in there too. What's he gonna do? Jump after him? Like, this fight could have been so easily interrupted. There's like a million people around. One of them has a gun.
Yeah, they did.
Someone's from the military base and they have a gun and they can fix this.
And those people didn't need that bridge. Like, you could it's like a 3-foot drop and then you climb up on the other side. And well, just even the fact, not to harp on Sato again, but just him being here at the end feels so weird because he's such a crazy villain throughout the rest of the movie. It's like, so now he's dancing with everyone. He remembers the dance. And
Yep.
like, as you mentioned a few times, he also has a drum.
Yes, they all have drums. There's a big drum, and he's applauding really big at the end. Yeah, and it's
Scrooge. That's what I remember what it is now. He's basically Scrooge at the end, because there's even a moment where a guy comes up to him with like a bottle of something, and he makes his Sato mean face, and the guy's like, "Oh no!" And then he's like, "Ha ha! Give me the bottle." It's like when Scrooge pretends that he's still mad at Cratchit, and he's like, "I need to tell you something, Cratchit. You get a week off and a pay raise." This is great. I'm Sato slash Scrooge.
Yeah. Daniel's son looks really fucked up at the end, so that's kind of fun. Like, he's got blood running all over him and stuff,
Yeah.
and he's like going into a zen state and breathing and then fighting amazingly. I don't like that we don't see what the fuck he's doing. He's just turning and flopping his arms, I guess, and that's the drum technique. But yeah, you know, I was like, when we were holding on Mr. Miyagi at the end, I was like, ended on his face again. Yeah. And then it just fades to black.
Oh, perfect. Absolutely. And to cut back a little bit, the clip at the beginning of the show when Daniel's talking about his dad and the way Pat Morita plays it, it's so great. It's such a great scene. Like, again, going back to, we're kind of picking on some of the parts that are bad, but you know, just the Daniel Miyagi stuff is always great, and there is still enough good here. It's just, you know, not quite on the level of the first one, I'd say.
Yeah, because the first one with its cheese is, to me, and again, I'm blinded probably by nostalgia and everything, but like, it feels pitch perfect, everything that happens in the first one. And in this one, it has great moments, but then there's other bits as well where you're like, okay, I guess we'll just cut the bits that we need for flashbacks in Cobra Kai, and we'll ignore the really weird stuff where, like, I can imagine there being a line, I don't remember one, but in Cobra Kai where Daniel's son, like, there's mention of his trip to Japan, and like, he just totally plays it off like, yeah, that like, so they make some joke about how it was totally over the top what happened over there or something, you know.
Yeah.
Can't quite phrase it, but I could see that as a little joke of like, yeah, that was crazy, decided to go back to tournaments after that or whatever.
Now, I guess this is more speculation stuff. It's not quite Karate Kid Part 2. It's more Cobra Kai. Shit. I guess I'll wait, because I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything from Cobra Kai Season 2 in case someone's first listening through it. We'll get to it. Forget it.
Okay.
Forget what
All
I just...
right. Well, I'll forget it for now, but I'll remember it for the future, and we'll bring it back, much like Cobra Kai brings back all of our favorite moments. Yeah, so next week, we're unsurprisingly going to talk about The Karate Kid Part 3, and I think after that, we're going to get into the actual show of Cobra Kai. But if you have any thoughts on what we've discussed so far, feel free to get in touch at showswhatyouKnowshow@gmail.com. You can also visit our website, showswhatyouKnow.com, for all of our other coverage of shows like Westworld and Game of Thrones and, you know, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, all the greats, the 3 great shows that you need to keep track of, and everything else as well. Is there anything else, Jim?
I think there's just one more thing.
Oh, yeah. And that thing is strike first.
Strike hard.
No mercy.
They were out.
Yeah.